Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, as the case may be, wherever you're tuning in from, wherever part of this lovely world you're tuning in from. On a Europa League night, you know. Oh, no, sorry, Europa League plus Man United night, because apparently Man United are playing. I didn't even know they were playing. I mean, that's how insignificant they are. It's Man United, Chelsea, and didn't have a clue. Hope everyone's well. Hope everyone's dandy. Hope everyone's safe. Hope everyone's healthy. That's what counts first. Thought we'd do a stream. Wasn't planning to do one today, but small bit of news that we've all been waiting for broke today. Absolutely chuffed to bits with this news. Couldn't believe it, lads. Martin Atkinson, John Moss retiring at the end of the season. How do you guys feel? Your reactions to the breaking news of the day? Look at your faces. Look at your faces. Yeah, we're all delighted. Love it.
What's he doing to us?
You know, the real breaking news. Yeah, the referees. No, but that is it. I mean, look, as far as days go, obviously we're going to get into the real business of today. But as far as days go, that's quite good news, right, Errol? I don't know if you're a fan of these named refs that are retiring at the end of the season. I'm certainly not. Mike Dean as well apparently is. So that's quite a changing of the guard, it seems.
Needs to happen. We need to get some fresh blood in there. Some people who aren't set in their ways and making decisions based on history rather than the game that unfolds in front of them. So for me, the more young and up and coming referees that come through the pyramid and find their way into the Premier League that aren't tainted by history, then long may that continue.
Absolutely. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, of course, my bad. Got carried away with the introduction there. Well, I didn't even do an introduction. Of course, I've got Errol and Dan, usuals, on there. But Steve's joining me for the first time. An absolute pleasure to have you on, pal.
Thank you. Pleasure. Yeah. All good, mate. Thanks for having me on. We've known of each other for some time now, so it's nice to finally spend some time on a stream with you, mate. So
absolutely is. This is the positive side of social media, where you actually get to meet real life people and have real life talks and chats, like as if we're sitting over a coffee table or a bar or whatever. Errol, how are we, pal? Yeah. How's your day been? Quiet day?
Busy day, mate. Busy day. Doesn't stop. Obviously, I was streaming last night, and that finished. Game finishes. Time the game finishes, but obviously did the post-match content as well. So late one, then back in the office first thing today, and then obviously there was just group chats flying off midday, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? I thought I had to drop on you for a change as well, Chris, and then
it's quite a morning for Reds all over the world. Dan, hope you're well first.
Yeah, mate, can't complain. Definitely had worse days, let's put it that way. It all kind of snowballed, didn't it? Like this morning, you thought, okay, yeah, that's good. Especially with Paul Joyce. When Paul Joyce is rubber stamping stuff early doors, you're made up, aren't you? And then, it just escalated from there, didn't it? What a day.
It's mad because as Liverpool fans, right, we're riding on a crest. Like, it's a mad wave at the moment. It's like, it's almost we're kind of just seeing, is this real? Where can this lead us to? What can get better? And obviously the pessimists among us, there's always pessimists among us, are thinking, surely we've reached a point where there's going to be a bit of a drop or a bit of bad news or something. But it seems to be the opposite, lads. And Errol, I'm just going to come to you first. And the news, as Dan says, and we guys trying to sort of allude to, and obviously it's out everywhere and we all know about it, is Paul Joyce, the godfather when it comes to Liverpool journalism, suggests in the morning that Liverpool are in talks with Jurgen Klopp to extend his deal. What happens to your brain when you hear that?
You don't want to see the emojis that I was sending to the group chat when I seen it, put it that way. I was very, very excited. Do you know what, though? I think you hit the nail on the head there in terms of the way you said it. We're like riding this crest and this wave at the moment. And I almost likened it today that we've been sat waiting for an announcement of Salah for so long, and we thought that would kind of be a real catalyst of or a statement of intent in terms of the direction the playing squad's going to go in the next 2 years, 2-3 years, whatever it might be. And it's just been rumbling on and on and on and on and on. And obviously in the background, there's been these talks, there's been these conversations that the hierarchy of the club have been having with the manager and his obviously backroom staff. And none of us really have been privy to it. So then when it dropped, I was like, this could be the ultimate catalyst for us now. Like, if he wasn't already overly invested, if he wasn't getting carried away with the fanfare of like obviously chasing the quad and all these dreams, like it's almost the quad is an amazing prospect, but the added prospect of now Klopp being here for an extended period of time kind of takes the pressure off the quad almost this year again, because it's like we know we are good enough if everything goes right for us in a season to do a clean sweep. It's not a case of this being the one in a million shot of us doing it now. That's kind of how it feels for me. Obviously, there's going to be an amalgamation of the team in the next couple of years, or Mark II of this Liverpool side. So you automatically expect then he's going to get that to a super high height of quality. And what could happen at that point? Quads, defending trophies, defending a Champions League. Do we go on a crazy run? So your mind just starts to just wonder. And I just think it's been an absolute... You'd probably feel exhausted if you would just engross yourself in social media and didn't have other distractions for the day. But it feels good.
It feels good. Dan, where was you? You've got to ask these questions. Where was you when you heard the news? What was you doing? What was your reaction? Did you hug the closest person to you? Did you smash glasses? What did you do?
Not unfortunate. I was on a podcast talking about last night's game when I seen it this morning, the Paul Joyce tweet originally, and I had to stop what I was talking about, obviously, because, you know, despite winning the Champions League semi-final last night, Jurgen Klopp staying at the club is bigger news, because like Evan alluded to there, we've all been waiting for the Salah deal, and we all still want the Salah deal. But I think if you'd have offered anyone Klopp or Salah, it's Klopp, isn't it? Because he is the catalyst behind everything. Like, Mohamed Salah's the best footballer in the world, but Jurgen Klopp makes this entire operation tick. So yeah, I was on my own doing a podcast and overjoyed. But then when I seen the Klopp announcement video later on, I was in the car, and you don't want to know the noise I made when I seen that video. Like, it was, I'm 30 years old, and I've never made a noise like it. Let's put it that way. I watched Divock Origi head the ball in after Jordan Pickford couldn't reach it off the bar, and I thought that was as ridiculous as I could be. Apparently not.
They're the moments that we live for. We look back and we think we're absolutely normal. That reaction is normal, because at the time you think, or maybe the couple of seconds afterwards when you make that noise or that reaction, you think to yourself, "Oh, I hope no one saw that," or "Hope no one recorded it." But then afterwards you think, "No, that's absolutely normal, because that's natural jubilation." And Steve, when you know, again, just your raw reaction when you first heard the news is coming out.
Well, I was in work. And I work with a few Man United fans, so they were as disappointed as I was elated. But my closest guy in work is a Liverpool fan, so we had a stand up and a fist pump and all that stuff. I think a lot of what Errol says is exactly right. We've long thought, how can he walk away from what he's building? And he's adding all these young players like Diaz and Jota and Konate, and he's got Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott, and he's got Trent, and I could go on for another 5 minutes. Who can walk away from that when he's building something? If the rumours that I think someone's come out and said he's asked for backing to make a dynasty, he's asked for his coaching staff to get their contracts, and they've got them, and he's asked for Mane and Salah to be sorted out as well. This guy sounds to me like he's in this for the long haul now, and apparently there's also an option to extend at the end of the current deal he's just signed. So for Liverpool fans, that's absolutely brilliant news, because I'm sure all three of you would agree. You can search the world high and low, you will not find a man better suited to manage our football club. No. We say he's an adopted Scouser, he is, but he's a man of the people, and we're a football club of the people. So absolutely superb. It's the best signing Liverpool could have made right now, and who knows, maybe Salah was waiting to see what happens with Klopp before he made his decision, and hopefully his deal will follow quite quickly.
Absolutely. We'll tuck into the meat of it, or I don't know if that's a saying, if that's a phrase. If it isn't, just use it, and we'll take it on board and ride with it. Errol, Steve makes a very good point. This guy it seems as though he's here for the long haul. It will be 11 years, right? Because he joined in
Almost 12, yeah,
2015, didn't
almost
he?
12, yeah.
So 2015 to 26, quick
11.
maths,
Yeah,
11 years.
yeah,
Oh, so yeah. So look, Errol, let's just very briefly take it back to sort of when he joins and what state he joins us in and what a job he's got to do. And we all remember the state we were in. And we all remember our feelings. I mean, obviously, some may have known about Jurgen Klopp on a very deep level about what he's about, what kind of character he is, what kind of job he done at Dortmund and Mainz. I suspect a lot wouldn't have known. I suspect a lot of would have trusted people that did did some analysis on him. Um, can you remember what you was like when you first joined? Can you remember the state we were in? I'll remind you
Yeah,
if you don't remember.
nah,
But
like that was a remind me, good.
yeah,
You know, literally, just I think we all kind of didn't trust the club at that point in time. So the fact that they was able to pull off a masterstroke like Klopp, and say there will be people that will have known him more in depth. I didn't watch the Bundesliga. The closest affiliation I had to Dortmund back then was I'd go them or I'd raid their players in on FIFA because I knew he was good, and I watched them in the Champions League enough times to know, yeah, that they're in real life, they're decent players. But yeah, like I tweeted out something earlier today, yo, my dad didn't tell me that he was leaving, but Klopp telling me that he's staying is the vibe. He's sticking around for the long term. I'm fully here for it. Like that was literally how I felt because he's been I would have loved him to have been the manager in my formative years of being into football because I think that you would have just fell in love with the club even more than you did. We're lucky that we had the likes of Steven Gerrard and Jamie Carragher. We had Owens. We had other players that when I was growing up that like still made you feel like, oh, we're a special club because these players are ridiculously special. But in terms of that overall structure and being able to guide the ship, we didn't really have the captain. Obviously, Rafa was great, but I think he got done dirty by the club from what I can remember. And he kind of almost down tools as well. He was like, well, if I'm not going to get what I want, what more can you expect me to do? I've taken this team as far as I can. And that was it. And then obviously after that, it was just a shit show. And I remember I was actually in Ireland, the Everton game. And then a couple of hours later, the news broke. And I was like, no way. I just genuinely couldn't believe that we had been that ruthless at that point in our history. We dilly-dallied too much about everything and we didn't give the players that we actually wanted in the transfer markets the money, and he'd go to other clubs like Tottenham or Chelsea, and it was just like if we felt like, you know, I'm glad social media wasn't at its pomp 2015 in the same way that it is now, because we was in the mud. We was the banter club back then, and Jurgen Klopp turned us into some serious operators. And as I say, now I'm an adult. I still half wish that he could adopt me.
I
Literally,
feel the same. I absolutely feel the same. And someone's mentioned and remembers just very briefly sort of the early days and the early games, and someone remembers the West
yeah,
Brom game, still an
yeah,
iconic game. At the time, a lot of opposition fans sort of kind of laughed
yeah.
in
Ridiculed
terms
it,
of
like.
ridiculed it, didn't they? Who's laughing now, hey Dan?
Well, exactly. I was actually at that game, and I
Oh,
was actually in the COP, so I was sort of there when he brought the squad over. And even being there, then it did feel like a moment because I think we'd all bought into the way Klopp was, even pretty much from the outset. The things he said, the way he came across, he came across instantly like one of us, and it's something he'd done before as well in Germany. It's almost like a uniting of we're all in this together, because
yeah.
that's what he does. He takes the whole football club, the fans included, on a journey. And that was the first sort of showing of that we'd really seen. And 2-2 draw, wasn't it? And we come back late. I think Origi scored later on, if my memory serves me well.
Benteke.
With the Benteke, sorry, yeah. And yeah, late goal, 2-2. And it didn't feel like much of a result, but it felt like the start of something. And that's what Klopp was trying to signify. But yeah, you're dead right. I mean, we got ridiculed and still do occasionally to this day about that. But I remember Steve alluded to talking to like Man United fans there, and it's funny, isn't it? Because of the first couple of years of Klopp's reign, we still got a little bit of abuse because we missed out on semi-finals, we lost the odd final, and it was the whole Jurgen flop thing. And now today, with him signing his contract extension, anyone you know who doesn't support Liverpool is gutted that he's staying. So that just shows you the transformation that he's had at this football club.
Yeah, look, Steve, Dan touches upon sort of the early days and the early years, and but it's I know you're a man who knows his history and facts about Liverpool, and it's amazing. Even saying that, even the state of that squad, he managed to take us to a European final in his first year, didn't he, Steve?
Yeah, he's getting
Um,
120% out of players he had no right to be getting 120% out of,
Yes,
and that's down
yes.
to one thing alone, and that's his man management skills. So the game that we've referenced, the West Brom game, I know from a professional coach who knows John Achterberg that he got everybody in the club together and said, we're going to become a family, we're going to go on a journey, and we're going to be unbreakable, and we're going to all do this together, and every single one of you is as important as the next one. Whether you play or whether you clean, I don't care, you're part of the family. What he did at the West Brom game was connect that feeling in the club to the fans, and we've gone on and become unbreakable. The fans just get what he's trying to do. We understand what he's trying to achieve. Um, I've been lucky enough to watch Liverpool win all of the European Cups. So I'm very grateful for that situation and being able to say that. There were times when you never doubted our success. There were times when, as a kid, I'd come in after playing footy myself and say, "What score did Liverpool win today?" That was a standard question because that's
yeah,
how it was. He's reconnected fans of my age with memories of that era purely because we're doing it again. What I saw last night against Villarreal was probably Klopp's finest performance in terms of what you do when you don't have the ball. And that's probably the one that makes him feel all sort of warm and fluffy inside, for the want of a better phrase, because that's what he's tried to build, that's what he's tried to generate. And we were absolutely amazing last night. Where this goes and how he takes it forward and where we get to, the sky's the limit. Because if they do back him financially, and we can improve, we need to do a little bit of work in our midfield in terms of a bit more dynamism in terms of when we switch it round a little bit, and we have to look to the future because they're not young lads in the middle of the park, are they? This guy is laying a platform and an infrastructure for continued success. And it just reminds me of the boot room days when after him we all hope it's Linda's. And
yeah,
if it is, we're absolutely back in the days when a manager left and the next in line stood up, exactly Shankly 2.0, and then the next manager stands up, and then hopefully your Milners and your Hendersons are involved in the coaching staff, and then it's one of them. And we could go on a cycle now of 15, 20 years of, if we do things right off the pitch and our recruitment's good, and there's no suggestion it won't be, we could dominate for some time, and that's a really appealing thing for me.
you've
Keep
actually
going,
nailed it
Steve,
there.
keep going.
Yeah, exactly. He's got me going and motivated even more and passionate about. Red Steve's in the building as well. He always changed his name. Today he's changed it to Nothing Ever Happens on a Thursday. Evening Reds, according to the light ban, only half of you are happy if Jurgen staying. He's got a point. I know this is a bit of an impromptu show today. Normally I don't do a show on a Thursday, but it had to be done. Errol, Steve touched upon a couple of things there. And one thing he's talked about is sort of very early on, we could see the way he wanted to do things, the way he wanted us to play. Very early on, we when he came in, we heard about this Gegen pressing, didn't we? And it kind of just sort of appealed to a lot of pundits and said, what the hell is this Gegen pressing? It's normal pressing. Do you remember? I remember coaches like Sam Allardyce at the time were saying, well, every team presses. Little did they know what they meant by that. Moving it forward just today, we've spoken about sort of his early days, whatever, but just probably one of the best examples of that, right? Ironically, was last night, because that performance in terms of pressing, Gegen pressing, was absolute elite levels, and we treated Dan was saying earlier, it's a Champions League semi-final. It didn't kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It didn't feel the tension or the nervousness of a Champions League because we're so good. I mean, it culminated in one of the best performances you've seen. From me, anyway, I thought that was an outstanding performance. And don't let anyone tell you Villarreal are not a good team.
No, I wouldn't suggest that anyway. I kind of gave them credit for that last night on the stream. The fact that what they do well has helped them get past Juve and Bayern this season, and they've stuck to that. And on top of that, they were the Europa League winners, so they've obviously got confidence in a certain level of caliber themselves. And I thought the reason for us kind of not having that anxiety yesterday, or maybe not feeling as tense as it might have could have, was because two things really, and one of them was the fact that that's part of the confidence that this team gives you. It almost doesn't matter who we're drawn against on any given day. If we turn up and most of our players play 8 or 9 out of 10, there's a 20, 30-minute window where we could blitz you and the game could be put to bed almost. And then the other thing as well, I think the fact that we was playing the Villarreal, that probably didn't add to it. I think if we was playing someone where it was a blockbuster name, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to turn up either. Again, Bayern and Juve hadn't turned up this season and got knocked out. PSG, blockbuster name, gets knocked out. These things can happen. So you can only beat what's in front of you. But I think the fact that the fans knew in their heads, they're 7th in La Liga. You know, is this the one step too far for them? That was the phrase I kept using. Is this now just one step too far? You looked at their fans, they got beat 2-0. They put up a valiant performance last night, and their fans were absolutely rocking still. And that isn't because...
They were a credit.
But that wasn't because their team played exceptional football. That was because their team are in a semi-final of the fucking Champions League. So rain, sleet, hail or snow, we're going to shout and cheer for you because we're proud and we'll give you that energy and that support because you've taken us on an unbelievable journey in the last 12 months of football. So I think you've got to give them a little bit of credit, but then at the same time, I think this Liverpool side in the second half just showed exactly what we are capable of doing. And I kept saying as well, when you're in a semi-final, doesn't matter who you're playing against, the one thing you've got to do right is set the standard of how good you are and how you can play, because you're sending a message to any team that you might end up meeting in the final. And I don't think, especially at home, I don't think we could have afforded to play a 90 minutes like we did the first half, but it was nice that the team on the pitch could figure it out within the space of 20 minutes after the second half. And then from there, it was like, right, foot off our gas. We'll literally now just conserve our energy because we know we've got a big game on the weekend. I just thought it was professional, utterly professional.
Dan, one of the reasons why I referenced last night's game in the middle of a Klopp show was just the point of sort of, in terms of emotions as a Liverpool fan. Mm-hmm. With all this talk of quad, we're winning every single game. We're overcoming every hurdle that's sort of in front of us.
Yeah.
We're getting closer, deeper and deeper into the quad. Obviously, we don't know if we're going to win it. We're just trying our best to just talk about it every week so it's a relevant thing. And then this news breaks. What do you think about the timing of this, Dan, in terms of the fan base, the players, and himself as well? Are you surprised with the timing of it slightly? Because there's 1 month to go, lads. There's 1 month to go for the season. This could have been held back. Or do you think it's very strategic?
I think it's ingenious, the timing of it, quite frankly. I actually wrote down before we started and the word timing. So I'm glad you brought it up. It's something I wanted to talk about because, like you say, we're just coming. I mean, we've been saying it for weeks, it seems now. We've got this massive run in and every game's a cup final, but it just remains true the entire time. With every game we win, the next game gets even more important, especially in the Premier League. Every time we win a game of football, the next one doubles in importance, doubles in size. But as for the timing of this announcement, I genuinely believe it is ingenious. We've got the whole Salah stuff going on as well, so whether it has a knock-on effect there remains to be seen. But this football club and this, obviously the fan base, we're wholly invested in what's going on, as are the players. But if there was any sort of like, even the slightest wavering doubt hanging over anything, it's gone now. Whether you're a player, a fan, or whatever, because we might have, oh, this is amazing, this is incredible. We could win 4, but Klopp could go in 2 years. And the players might be thinking, oh, yeah, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. But this is like, you're already flying, absolutely flying. And someone's just come with like a jetpack and gone, yeah, I'll have that as well. Klopp's staying for 2 more years. I mean, how much more of an incentive do we need as fans at this point? We're chasing 4 trophies. And our manager's just extended his contract for 2 more years. I mean, icing on the cake doesn't even sum it up. It is incredible what's just happened. And you're right, they easily could have waited till the end of the season, comfortably. And it would have been normal to do so. But I think that dropping it in now, just before the final 8 games of the season, is a brilliant move. I think it's a masterstroke. Because every single player in that changing room now will go up yet another notch. And what more could you say?
Sky's the limit, isn't it, Steve? The sky's the limit. It's Dan calls it genius, absolutely genius strategy. Um, but if we go back a season, Steve, that was, well, he openly admits, the worst season of his life from a personal point of view. I don't know if he said it from a professional point of view, but we obviously know from a personal tragedy point of view, it was without doubt his worst year of his life. And obviously, that sort of, you take into consideration the state of the team, the injuries, and everything. And I guess it was probably one of the worst years of his professional career. And you could see, absolutely, you could see him visibly really down and out, and so fed up with this game. And you just don't associate that with Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen
No.
Klopp is the epitome of bouncy, positive, smiling, energetic. Did you, at the time when he said, when it came out that he's going to give up in 24 and walk away, did you believe him at that time, or did you think, look, he's going through a really bad time, and he's the kind of guy that is like us almost, in terms of what I mean, like us, of course, he's like us, he's human, but he's emotional. He's an absolutely emotional chap. And did you ever have, feelings like, I think it's going to happen, or you know what? I think if something happens positive emotionally, everything comes back, the players come back, he gets over the tragedy. You don't get over something like that very easily, of course. But good people around him, good family around him, he may come round again.
I think he makes some good points there. He was very visibly hurt by losing his mum and not being able to go to a funeral. He's a very religious man, so the sort of the burial and all of that stuff is really important in terms of emotion and closure in that scenario. So that really hurt him. Then you take away his system, because when you take out your centre backs and you're using centre midfielders who are part of your system as makeshift centre backs, suddenly we've got nothing. We're playing Man United style off the cuff football, trying to win games of football without being able to execute our game plan. So for large periods of that season, he would have looked at that and thought, I'm not really enjoying this. But he's a really, really philosophical guy. He's a guy who'll find all positives in situations when other people might look for negatives. So we get Van Dijk back, which is key, because he's not only the best central defender in the world, he's one of the best footballers in the world. And everything sort of slots back in, and then we start to see the enjoyment factor come back into it, and he gets the lift, and he starts to see a project, and then we bring in KHANAGE that's worked out better than any of us really could have envisaged, because he's just come in like he's been there forever. And then Tottenham force our hand and we go and buy Diaz. And guys, we'll be having Diaz conversations very similar to the ones we have about Salah in 2 or 3 years. This guy's the real deal. He's got every possible attribute you could want in a forward. Genuinely think he could upset Salah in terms of his contribution to the football club. He's like, I said it today on Red Men, he's a hybrid of early Sadio Mane and Luis Suarez. He's got the street fighter Suarez in him, and he's got the hunger, the desire, and the aggression of a young Mane. So Klopp's seeing this, and he must be thinking, last season was dreadful from a personal point of view and from a professional point of view. But then hang on a minute, I had Reece Williams and Nat Phillips deliver 28 out of 30 points to get us to third place. And we get back in the Champions League, and guess what? He's going to match Bob Paisley's record of 4 European finals if things go well in Villarreal. And that's come from adversity. And that's what we've seen with him. 97 points, don't win a league, so we win one the next year. We lose to Real Madrid in the final, we don't win the Champions League, so we win it the next year. He takes adversity and he uses it to his advantage, and he then says to the players, there's 2 things you can do. You can disappear up your own backside and do what Spurs did after the final with them, or you can say, right, I've got to find an extra 10% from somewhere. And if you want to be a winner, and if you want to have a football career that fans will talk about, that's the people we have to be. And I admire that most about him, in the fact that he takes difficult situations and he turns them around and he uses adversity. It's a real skill to be able to do that, to be able to coerce and persuade people that out of bad comes good things. And I think we've seen that in finals and in league campaigns. And I think this season's really opened his eyes to what he's starting to achieve. And in terms of last night, that's the best off-the-ball performance I've ever seen from any football club ever. They didn't get a sniff. They did not even get a shot on target. we stopped them playing. They tried playing out. We stopped that from happening. It was amazing to sit and watch. We suffocated them, is the word that BT Sport used a lot last night. And it was a pleasure to watch. And I think he's got his mojo back. And I think he's looking at the project now. What Dan's just said is perfect. The new contract is a shot in the arm for everybody in terms of a boost. Because now what we're saying is, actually, this guy's invested in this season. But wait, he's just signed a new contract to stay till 2026. He's invested in the next 4 years of this football club. And I want to be a part of that. And the best way that I can be a part of that is to contribute to whatever we achieve this season, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4 trophies. We're in a tremendous place, and it's a great time to be a Liverpool fan.
It absolutely is. There's a super chat that I want to get through before I come to you, Errol. Matt says, don't want to be presumptuous, but where are you guys watching the final? I booked my hotel for Liverpool after the Arsenal game. Lol. Come on, Liverpool. Yeah. We can't get any more better news than this, Errol. This is, someone said in the chat, I've lost it now, that, we can talk about players' contracts till the cows come home. We don't. Nothing compares to this, right? But what we do know is the offshoot of this suggests that renewals will be absolutely key part of him staying. And one of the most significant statements that we've read from various people today, from Mike Gordon, where he alludes to that. I haven't got the statement with me right now, but he suggests something to do with renewals. He mentions that if Jurgen Klopp says, I'm here for another 4 years, and you've been part of this family that Steve's talked about and what he's made build, and this relationship between players, coaches, dinner ladies, kit men, everything, nobody wants to leave Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool right now, right?
No, absolutely not. You don't get off the ride at the top and it's just about to take off and do some crazy shit and go all the way through the loop-de-loops. You get off at the end when you lift the safety seats off and say, it's safe to go now, you can exit your vehicle. Right now, this is probably the worst time to want to eject yourself from the Liverpool situation, because what he's given is more of an anchor. Again, you can be grounded around here. If you've been in the club since early Klopp days now, it'll have been nearly 3-4 years that you've been here yourself. You'll have matured, you'll have learned a lot. These coaches, the staff, as you said, the dinner ladies, they all feel like part and parcel of your family. They're the furniture. That's what you're so used to. You've just moved into the Ajax training facility. Again, in terms of training facilities for the sports organisation, it's going to be one of the best out there in the world because of how modern it is. It's going to come with all the bells and whistles. You're going to have, the main stand's just been increased, the building again, on more building blocks on top of building blocks. So it's like you want to be there and part of it, because at every level of the club, there is just clear improvements, better sponsors, better kit makes, better players coming in, better backroom staff, better nutrition. Everything is just growing a level, but it's almost like he's got that gravity and everything's just getting pulled into him. He is that celestial body for this club and everything is just getting drawn into his hold. And I don't think he wants to let go of that. And I looked at it and was like, in the Prem now, he's already down as the longest serving manager, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if that's true, you think then he's going to go on to be in same sort of stint in time as, was it 17 years that Arsene Wenger was there? Arsenal?
Around that.
Yeah, 22, 23 years for Alex Ferguson. So you're going to start going into those conversations naturally now, because how long you intend to stay at the club. It's not a flash in the pan. It's not a Chelsea scenario where I win one season, don't win the next, and I'm off. That is part of the makeup. My only real concern, but I think he's such a smart enough guy, is the future planning for the club. I think 2024 would have come round too quick, and it would have been, what do we do? And I basically said a couple of months ago now, in the summer, if he doesn't sign an extension, we need to start putting the feelers out for who is going to be the right best next man to Jurgen Klopp. Whether that is Pep Linders and you start kind of grooming him for the role, or you go externally and look and say, right, well, he's going to go in 2 years. What's going to be your availability? What would it take to get you? And they already have a short list that they can run by him, and he can kind of help because he's not past it where, you know, you didn't really, Sir Alex Ferguson made a dodgy call on David Moyes. Arsenal was that toxic. They didn't want Wenger to have any say in who coming next. He had to be pivotal to that decision. The fact that he's extended now means all of that future planning can be done properly. We can take our time with it. We can implement what Steve was saying. You know, that whole boot room ethos can come back in a new form and an amalgamation of it, and just purely on the basis that it's Jurgen fucking Klopp. Pay the man what he wants. If he's happy to stay, pay him what he wants until he doesn't want to manage football games anymore and he wants to go and fucking start a craft ale gaff over in Germany or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, literally, just let him do what he wants, because the club has never, in my lifetime, it's never been in safer hands.
You know, it's one key point you made. Well, you made a few key points. How rude of me after you speaking so well, making out you only made one key point. Slap me if you want. But one of the very key points you made was all this build up around the club in terms of sponsorship outside of the playing field. Obviously, we know on the pitch, magnificent improvement and the young people coming through, but the training ground, the sponsors, the stand, everything. Mm-hmm. Dan, all of this needs a figurehead. FSG would have. They've done a magnificent job off the pitch. We know this, and we're going to come on to FSG. I'm going to let Steve have FSG chat. But what I wanted to ask you was, FSG would have 100% needed a figurehead for all this, and there's no better figurehead than Jurgen Klopp. No. I think they will be. How will they feel? Relieved, happy, or would this be a part of their plan? Because look. 2024, Dave Maddock has come out and said in his piece tonight that it's provisionally, possibly option to extend even in 2026, which suggests Jurgen Klopp is exactly like us. He wants to know how he feels at the time and energized and the vibrancy. If he's still feeling it, then he will continue. But FSG, how will they feel today, tonight, or whenever this was agreed?
Yeah, they'll be over the moon. They'll be absolutely over the moon, because they know, like you've just used the word figurehead there, they know they've won the lottery with Jurgen Klopp, because there is no better figurehead for this football club. Not only is he, in my opinion, and I hope your free opinion as well, the best football manager in the world, he's one of the greatest football people in the world as well. And when he speaks about the game, people listen. Whether they like it or not to begin with, eventually people come round to his way
every time.
99 times out of 100. And there's a reason behind that, is because he speaks so eloquently about matters outside of football as well. He's often reluctant to do so because he's a football man and that's his job. But when he speaks generally, he speaks brilliantly. And FSG know that. And when you own a business or a multi-million, billion-dollar company like FSG is, the person you want front and centre of your company is someone like Jurgen Klopp, somebody who carries the flag of what you represent excellently, and that's what he does. And finding them sort of people is really difficult. We've just alluded to sort of the contingency plan there, and it's 2024 would have come too soon. There's half a chance we might have got it potentially wrong. Keeping Klopp was always the favoured option, whether it was from fans or FSGs. That's obvious. Clearly, they were just waiting for Klopp and his wife to say, okay, go on, then you can stay. And that's happened now, which is great. But what we've done today is we've future-proofed this football club. Absolutely. Because like Errol alluded to, Klopp's already, in my opinion, got a dynasty at this club, and he's already forged his legacy. But 4 more years of him, and maybe beyond, is just going to rubber stamp that 10 times over. Like, this is statue territory now, 100%. I've always backed him to leave us in safe hands. When you've talked about Arsenal and when Wenger left, it was left in a little bit of a toxic mess. United, we've all seen what's happened there. I've always backed Klopp because he loves us and he gets us to keep us in good hands. Now he's got 4 years to make sure that is the case. Because let's be honest, Gerrard isn't going to be ready in 2 years' time. There's no two ways about that. We all want Gerrard. He's not ready. Never going to be ready in that time. Pep Linders, maybe. But now there's no rush. We can just relax, safe hands, it's all cool, we'll be sound.
Yes, absolutely. You're right. Just FSG, Steve. How will fans of FSG be feeling? How will the anti-FSG crowd be feeling? Because look, let's call a spade a spade. It's time to call a spade a spade. And We all know the conversations that were taking place around social media, let's say, I don't know, 12 months ago, maybe 12 to 16 months ago, around the whole Super League business, investment in the squad, not backing Klopp, the aging of the squad. And some of us may have had valid concerns about that, certain aspects of that.
Hmm.
Some may have taken all of that on board and forged an opinion, but some may have elements of that you know we felt personally about. I, for one, was slightly concerned with the aging squad about 16 months ago. Fast forward that time now, Steve, we have brilliant youngsters in Konate coming through, Harvey Elliott coming through. I'm not going to go through them. We know what the state of our squad is suddenly looking just by investing in 2 or 3 players. We now have, we also know we have incoming players as well, Carvalho. We now have reliable people telling us, informing us that we are also after further younger players to, and in the areas that we have may have discussed privately or between mates as well. The new stand, improvement in sponsorship. We're looking for a new sponsorship deal. I've been told it's going to be the most one of the most lucrative in Europe. Where are people's mindsets now in terms of FSG now? Do you think have they redeemed themselves, bought themselves time, like some may have thought, or this was always the master plan, and we as a fan base sometimes need to trust the people in charge?
Some good points there. I think first thing to say is, would you swap our owners for any of our rivals' owners? And the answer is a very clear no. We wouldn't want a Glazer business model where you buy the club and leverage debt against it, and you pay £800 million in debt interest payments alone out of the football club. You don't want that. Old Trafford needs rebuilding. It stinks, it leaks, and it's full of rats. And that's not even
That was before.
that's just the players.
That
That's
was
before we get to
before,
anything
yeah.
else. Yeah, yeah. And you've also got the problems that Chelsea are encountering now because of the way the world is, and you've got the Manchester City model, which is very, very effective, and the infrastructure is amazing, but you can still question where it comes from and the origination of the money and all of that stuff. What we've got is some owners that bought the club now have realised an 800% profit margin. So if they were to sell the club today, their return on investment would be north of 800%, which is an incredible business deal. Let's not let's not forget that they bought the club as an opportunity, as a business transaction, rather than because they love football and they love Liverpool. What they have done is recognise what they've got their hands on. They want to build a portfolio of clubs. They will go. The plan is to go to Germany, France, and buy small clubs and develop them and take
Spain
them
as
on.
well, yeah.
Ours is the centerpiece. Liverpool Football Club is the centerpiece of their portfolio. When they go and stand in front of somebody and say, "We want to buy your football club because this is what we do," the PowerPoint presentation behind them will all be about Liverpool Football Club, because the way they run the football club can only be admired. We've got very little debt in terms of that. We don't spend beyond our means. We never sort of breach or come close to breaching FFP for what it's worth, but we don't get ourselves in that position, and that's not a criticism that's ever levelled at us. Anfield is looking as good as it ever did, as Errol alluded to before. The Kop side of Anfield is the only side that is a concern because it's so close to the road. What do you actually do with it? Could you make it steeper? I don't know, but I'm sure there's a plan in place for that. The AXA is amazing. I watched Klopp speaking about it. It's built in such a way they can build upwards in the building. There's the capability to add floors to the building. That's the way it's been designed. So whatever Liverpool Football Club wants to do, move all the operations and the retail and all of that stuff, how the logistics works to there, it could be a nerve centre for the football club. We've got to get rid of the FSG outers, because at the end of the day, we've got the best manager in the world. We've got the best goalkeeper in the world, the best centre half in the world, the best number 6 in the world. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
All of that has been delivered by what FSG have put in place with the people like Edwards and guys like that who've been pivotal to taking the club forward. I don't believe for one second when we looked at developing the football club, Jurgen Klopp didn't say to them, right, I don't want you to go and do championship manager and buy me 5 players. I think Jurgen Klopp said, I can manage with this until the right player becomes available, because we all know the story about Julian Brandt. Klopp wanted to sign Julian Brandt, and the analysts came to him and said, actually, you're looking in the wrong place. You need to look at this fella, and this fella being Mo Salah, because he runs when you need him to run. He tracks when you need him to track. He's got all the dynamics for your game plan. Klopp listened, and we signed Mo Salah, and the rest is history. Our one season wonder is an absolute revelation, isn't he?
I've got
So
another story. I've got another story similar to that. Steven Gerrard, when he was with the coaching staff, and Jurgen Klopp sort of was there. Steven Gerrard actually suggested Jack Butland as the goalkeeper, and Klopp was okay with it because Klopp
Wow.
was fairly new and he wanted And then analysts came in and said, no, we have selected, or we have chosen Alisson to be the chosen one, so to speak, and the rest is
it's
history.
amazing.
Again.
It's amazing. They know your recovery rate. They know your injury rate. You know, Canate probably got injured more to do with his diet and his lifestyle than his physical presence. We've suddenly fixed all the problems with Thiago. The guy's going to end up doing 30 games plus a season and he's never done that before.
Joe Matip, Naby Keita, the list
Keita,
Well,
goes
there you
on,
go.
Steve.
Yeah.
There
The
you
list
go.
goes on,
But I
Steve.
actually think that those guys are what they are because of the intensity of playing 2-3 times a week. We know that when we're good, we're doing double training sessions, and the players are being beasted. They're in beast mode, and they want to play. We talked about it today. They want to play every 2 or 3 days to keep momentum going, to keep intensity going. They're a hungry machine that wants to play football matches. So FSG had built the club, they built the training ground, they've put the finances in place. The club's worth an absolute fortune. They've got the best figurehead you could ever have. Dan was absolutely spot on. And they've got some of the best players in the world. And we're still looking at other players. Carvalho is going to be a revelation. I genuinely believe he's going to be the guy that comes in and learns from Bobby Firmino to be potentially another false nine, because you've got every attribute in the locker to do that. There's no reason for any of our fans, unless you're one or two of the notorious ones on Twitter that could pick a fight with themselves in an empty room. There's no reason to be negative about what's going on. I've been a Liverpool fan for 45 years. I remember 77 was when my first aware they were playing in the European Cup final, and I watched it with my dad. Our football club's never been as good as it is now, and our team's never been as good as it is now. So there are no reasons to be negative about what's going on. It's like Errol said, like it off the roller coaster as it's getting to the top of the hill. You know, fasten your seatbelts and enjoy the ride, because it's absolutely magnificent.
It's absolutely magnificent, and Steve's summed it up really nicely there, Errol. We now know with the Jurgen Klopp and his statement that his wife played a significant role, and we all know, being family men and whatnot, when everything's rosy at home, that is the best platform to move forward and go forward in your professional life and your working life. But it's just another symbolic thing about this Jurgen Klopp and family being involved. They're being settled. And you know what? I've got a theory, guys. Now, just tell me I'm just being way too, romantic and sort of nostalgic or whatever it is. But I genuinely think, since this song's come out for him, I think it could have had an emotional role in his family, because do you remember, guys? His wife was at a couple of games, and he went looking
City.
for him. Wasn't it City?
City, yeah.
City. And at that City game, because a lot of my friends were on the way in, they said we gave him the reception of receptions at the end of that game. And I'm not sure if that was the first game the song was sung. People in the chat will let me know. But I think he's that type of manager. He's that type of man, Errol, that emotionally he gets invested.
Have you seen the clip of him singing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So he's alluded to it. So
yeah, they all know. And I think you're right, especially when he's talking about his wife, because she was the confidant he went to when Man U knocked on his door.
Yeah.
And she looked at him and must have said, "You're not going to enjoy a minute of that." She knows her husband. She knows what makes him tick. She knows what drives him on, what motivates him. And when you've got that bond with someone in that relationship, I can only imagine it's only better. I can only imagine from Jurgen's perspective that's something that he wants to care about, because, you know, the guy, the leader, the protector, the provider of your family, you want to make sure that you're doing right by your family first and foremost. And the fact that they feel so comfortable, and let's, you know, again, call it a spade. Liverpool is a fucking boss city. There's like, when it's nice, and they obviously live a nice life as well, there's not many better cities in Europe that you can rock up in and stay and have everything you want and live a nice lifestyle. So they don't need to want for anything. They just need to feel like they're loved. And I'm not 100% sure about the song sentiment, but again, just the level of appreciation for him, the timing of it all, because I think he's made a few references about the crowd, and yeah, the crowd can get up for it sometimes and they'll sing the songs for the players, but I think it was the light bulb moments, and it wasn't like a hint to say it's about me, you know, I'm a narcissist, I need it, but it was the fact that we heard you, and not only are we going to do this for the players, but we want to do something for you as well, because, as I say, a lot of us, and even Steve there, saying this is the best shape he's ever seen the club in. Which means, you know, when you've seen us win the wealth of trophies that you've seen us win over the years, that's almost one for the history books to say this is the best Liverpool team of all time. And I don't know if any of you gents watched the Last Dance with Michael Jordan, the documentary. Yeah. You know, when that team was just like, right, we're going to go and do like a three-peat, and we're just going to win it season after season, and we're going to be unbelievable. And the coach, he reminded me of that coach so much, in just like his sporting methodology, completely different sports, but his mindset towards the game and towards the family and towards the unit. He got a lot of that team to the pinnacle of their level. And I almost, we before the, you know, the All or Nothing documentaries and those spin documentaries came out, we had that be in Liverpool. I would love nothing more than in his final season I'd be in Liverpool with Jurgen Klopp and just taking us to do, because I think he needs something at that level to just kind of, again, just give another glimpse into the man, the legend that is.
Did he not say no to it though when we were approached?
Originally,
yeah, that was just, I'm talking back end. I don't want it now. Let us just keep doing what we're doing. Absolutely. But towards the back end, something, even if it doesn't come out for 2-3 years after the fact, just something that captures those last, you know, seasons in an intimate way. I just think it's got to be nailed on, hasn't it? From again, another sponsorship deal type.
We've got over 360 of you in here for a spontaneous random pod show I've decided to do today. So appreciate the support, but we'd like a few more likes before we wrap up. So smash that like button, people. Dan, now that we know, now that everything is in place, the ending could just. This ending could go, obviously, we've discussed so many different ways. Well, it could go in 3 different ways or 4 different ways. But try to look past that. I know we can't and we shouldn't, but try to look past that now and into the future and into the summer in terms of players coming in. How will this look on them? Because obviously, players coming in will want to know, what's the state of play with the greatest manager that we can see from the outside, and what you tell us as well? Because players talk, agents talk, and he's never talked about in a bad light. You know, we always talk, like players that play for Mourinho always talk about him, Conte, Tuchel. No ex-player has ever said a bad word at Jurgen Klopp. No. So the reputation is there, and it's based on solid foundation. What does this indicate to you for future incoming players?
Oh, it's a massive statement of intent. I mean, not only have we got the great news today with Klopp signing, but that also came with this influx of, oh, by the way, while we're at it, XYZ look like they're going to renew their contracts, and you're also pursuing, you know, Tuchemeni and Bellingham as youngsters as well. It was just like dreamland, quite frankly. If going for a quadruple wasn't already enough, this whole influx of news today was just another world. But yeah, it's so important. It's actually something that crossed my mind before, because, you know, if we're looking at signing big name players potentially this summer, you know, you're essentially asking them to come in and play for a manager prior to today for 24 months, which is a relative amount of time, but it's not a long period of time, because you're asking players to come in on potentially 5-year deals, and there's 3 years there whereby they're not 100% sure, A, who the manager's going to be, or B, whether the club's going to be sort of competing on the same echelons as it is now.
And look how long it can take to break yourself into a Jurgen Klopp side as well, on top of that.
Yeah, by the time you're ready, he could be halfway out the door. prior to today, again, like I say. But now, these players that might be thinking, oh, yeah, I'd love to go to Liverpool, but now it's like a nailed on thing. It's like, oh, yeah, Klopp's there for extra 2 years, 100%. 100%. And it's just, it's just incredible. Like, it actually crossed my mind because obviously on the back end of this, I looked at the Guardiola situation because let's be frank, they're our biggest rivals in the Premier League. And his contract expires currently in 2023. And I thought, if I was a player looking to go to one of the two clubs, us or them, now with 3 more years, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's got to be Liverpool. It's got to be Klopp. So it stands us in such good stead for him in terms of incoming as well.
It is. It does. Steve, I'm going to let you have the final say. Obviously, everybody probably the main thing on everyone's mind now is look, we've secured the best man possible, the ultimate signing. This is the ultimate signature that we needed. But obviously, as a result of the ultimate signature, we need a few more signatures and renewals. What's your mindset saying in terms of the Mane and the Salahs of this world? Because obviously Maddox alluded to it, and I've heard similar that one of his demands, not demands, he doesn't make demands, but one of the agreements and sort of the talks that took place were, look, we're going to secure everyone that you want to secure, and surely he wants to secure all these guys. Apart from first and foremost securing his own background team, which he has, that was absolutely crucial, crucial. But now he's going to want a bit of security in terms of the guys that he's made these global world stars, right?
Well, he's got two in particular, hasn't he, that he needs to tie down. I think we all saw Mane's form dip a little bit last season. I put that down to the loss of shape, the loss of Ronaldo, the fact that I cast my mind back to the Everton game, and you might have done the watch-along error where Seamus Coleman misses a free header at the back post because Andy Robertson's not at home. For the rest of the season, Andy Robertson played quite defensively minded. So I think Mane often found himself trying to do too much, and he forced it and tried too hard at times to do things. Since they put him through the middle, he's kind of rejuvenated. He's got 20 goals this season. Who in their right mind allows a player that can give you 20 goals in 4 seasons of his Liverpool career the opportunity to leave on a free? You just don't do it. How much would it cost to replace Sadio Mane? 50, 60, 70, 80 million for a player of that quality. It's going to guarantee you 20 goals a season for the most part of his career. I've not even got on to Mo Salah yet. That's a completely different conversation altogether. There is no upgrade for Mo Salah out there in his position in world football right now, and I include Mbappe in that conversation because Mbappe either plays off the left or plays through the centre. No one's seen him play down the right. Salah's on a single man crusade to right the wrongs of the Ballon d'Or vote last season. He's not only scoring goals, he's assisting as well. So his numbers, his goals and assists, I think it's 44 played and 44. It's the same. It's the same number of games, and so those guys have got to be tied down because they're the two of the tridents, the tried and tested trident of Salah, Firmino, and Mane. I think the one at the moment that probably is the biggest spotlight on in terms of his future in the club would be, we now appear to have two players that want to play through the centre. That would be Mane, who's now number 9, a traditional number 9 with a little bit of false 9 about him, and Bobby and Jota there sometimes, because I think Diaz is making the left side of that front three his own. So now you've got 3 players that potentially are looking at shoehorning in through the centre. I think Bobby's been absolutely tremendous, but there's been a couple of injury issues with Bobby this season. He doesn't seem to be able to put a run of games together through knocks and through injuries. And let's be honest, we've taken an awful lot out of that guy since he signed. He's delivered year in, year out. He's a legend of the football club, and I'm Team Bobby, me. I love him to bits. But you have to look for succession planning. And succession planning for Liverpool Football Club right now does not include finding answers to losing Mane and Salah. That factor in his contract negotiations is absolutely right and proper, and says everything about Klopp's feelings about those two guys. So if he's got anything to do with it, they're not leaving the football club. And for those people that take to Twitter saying John Henry signed Mo Salah, John Henry has nothing to do with Mo Salah's contract negotiations. It's the CEO and the guys at Liverpool Football Club who are paid to run our football club. So stop spouting, buy a new yacht, Linda's this and Linda's that, because it's nothing to do with John Henry. It's to do with the logistics and how Liverpool football clubs run. So I'll finish with this. I heard someone say, if you don't need to give someone a new contract for 6 months, why do you give them a new contract today and spend £20 million you don't need to spend? The reality is we don't need to renew Mo Salah's contract until the 31st of December. The likelihood is we will do it ahead of that to sort of placate the guy, get him to settle down and deliver on the pitch. But we're quite within our rights to wait till the 11th hour at the end of his contract if we really want to. That's prudent business sense, that is, to do that at the right time rather than just do what the likes of United and Chelsea do, which is chuck, and Arsenal and Ozil in particular, and chuck ridiculous bumper contracts at people when you're not convinced by that deal. Just doing it for the sake of doing it is not the right thing to do. So again, it speaks of great management of the football club, and we're in such a strong position. But for him to come out and say, I'll sign, these are the things I would like to see happen, these are the things I want to do in the rest of my football career at your club, and that is to sign Salah and Mane up. I'm 110% behind that, and I don't know many people that aren't.
Absolutely. What a brilliant way to end. Guys, this has been a magnificent stream. I've got to get people are calling me for another stream out there in the comments. I haven't forgiven, but we had to do this show. Very, very, very humbled for you guys joining me at such short notice, guys. I've got to start giving you more notice. I'm so sorry. I'm so bad at this. I'm still an amateur, guys. I'm still learning.
You need a PA, man.
Oh no, I'm still learning. I'm awful. I'm absolutely awful. But thank you. That's what makes us for, and I really, really appreciate that. Thank you very much, guys, for coming on. This has been Carnage. Anything but carnage right now, because we have got one of the best men in the game looking after us. It's no more carnage. Everything's calm. Everything's under control.
Carnage.
Brilliant stuff. Take care, guys. Let me hit that outro button and we out of here.